All right, first things first, head coach Mike Mendoza officially announced as the head wrestling coach today. Coach, just your first thoughts on being named officially the head wrestling coach.
It feels great. I guess it's a little bit different because I was here, so it's not like it's, going to a new place. I've been a part of this program the past 3 seasons, going into the 4th season, and so just it's kind of something that was on the horizon, and but thankful for the opportunity that the administration has given me.
And then we'll jump right in. Just kind of give us a brief recap of the fall so far of the tournament at Kearney, and then the duels out at San Francisco.
Yeah, so this year so far, lineup's been a little bit different. It's going to be different tomorrow versus Western. But a lot of new guys, got a fairly young team. So went out to San Francisco and dueled Menlo and San Francisco State out there, and had our first duel out there. And you could see it was our first duel, a little bit rough in some, spots. I guess offensively we weren't quite where we wanted to be, but within the second match, kind of started to rev things up, and then going into Kearney, we see guys starting to just get better as they have from one match to the next.
And then for both of you guys, Gus and Jason, sorry, I forgot to introduce you. Gus Dalton on the left here, head coach Mike Mendoza, Jason Bynarowicz on the right. Guys, for you, this will be your first Western duel, and I'm sure guys on the team that have wrestled in it before have talked to you about it. It's a little bit more. Everybody gets a little bit more amped up for the Western duel. Just talk about your feelings and your thoughts, kind of going into tomorrow's duel.
Okay, so I guess I'll go first. This is my first duel of the year. I've been out because of various things, but I'm stoked. It's going to be a good match, and I have some friends at Western, so it's going to be good to put it to them.
Yeah, this is my 4th year here, so I've been up there a few times watching the duels, and it gets rowdy up there. It's good, but wanting to kick their butts up there feels real good.
Okay, questions?
Mike, you've been here, like you said, for 3 years, so it's probably a pretty easy transition, but you also want to make this your own program. So kind of how do you balance that, and how's it gone? I mean, it's just, you just kind of rolled right into the season, it looked like.
Yeah. So, I think coming here, it was kind of, my plan to take over, and Coach Pfeiffer's as well. When he reached out about the opportunity 3.5 years ago, it was about coming in and having an opportunity to take over when he retired. And so working with him the past 3.5 years has been awesome. I've learned a lot from him, and together we've, really kind of shaped the program together. And, it was very easy. There's no egos involved when we were coaching together. It was awesome. And so there's not a lot. I think some of the changes are things that I've added when I came, things that we, worked on together. And with Bo coming in as assistant coach, it's going to be the same. I think every coach has, some great things to add to the program, and Bo will as well. And so I think when you're coaching, it's a whole coaching staff and program thing too, because you get guys that come in, and so each team's a little bit different as well. So sometimes it's the team that you have too that kind of shapes the way you do things and run things, but it comes down to recruiting and training, and so there's a big focus there right now, and there has been the past few years, and so just keep rolling and keep building on what we've been able to build in the past few years.
I would say, probably the paperwork and everything else is the biggest change for you, is everything that goes into being the guy now.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this before. It's kind of nice being the assistant coach. You have a little bit less, and you get to do, a little bit more of the fun part of being with these guys and working with them a little bit more. And, as a head coach, you do more paperwork and a little bit bigger picture things that you kind of keep your eye on and pay attention to. So that's, for me, a little bit of a change there. but obviously in the same place, so a lot easier when there's not new processes and things like that to figure out. And part of that transition the past year is Coach Pfeiffer was, starting to look to retire some of the things he shifted over to me, and so kind of helped with that transition as well.
And guys, with the transition to coach, I mean, it's not like you're trying to get used to a totally new guy. So has it been fairly easy to, you kind of knew going in this was going to happen?
Yeah, since I've been here, Mendoza's been taking more and more chunks of what it is to be head coach, and it's made the transition super easy, and a lot of the guys I've loved it, and it's been great.
As for me, when I was getting recruited, it was Coach Mendoza and Coach Pfeiffer, so nothing's really changed except for the fact of how much they've each had, and it's been really cool just to have them both in the room and just figuring out everything, because not only are they figuring stuff out and Coach Mendoza getting used to the room, but we're all getting used to it too. So it's just a cool fluctuation and change, and change isn't always a bad thing.
Okay, last one for me. The way you go down to Western last year, have a terrific duel, win the conference title, that's going to be number one on their minds, is getting a little back at you guys. The extra energy that you talked about, what do you kind of try to prepare for differently?
Yeah, I think for these guys, just being as far as preparation for them is letting them know it's a dual meet, and it's a match right in front of you, and keep that the main thing. Certainly that environment there, it gets pretty hot and heated, and their crowd gets into it, and your mat is right up next to the stands, and that's there. Is there last year as well, and you feel it. But I would encourage these guys to use it, just to motivate them to just wrestle hard. But yeah, I think with or without a conference title on the line, that environment there, that kind of rivalry is pretty hot and heavy. And these guys that have been there and watched it and were there last year, they saw it, and some of the guys wrestled in it. So some of the guys wrestling on Thursday they know exactly what to expect, and then a lot of these guys actually saw it because they were there as well, and now they'll be putting on a singlet and being a part of it.
So, Coach, what is maybe something, since you've taken over, you're trying to instill in the program, like an identity? Like when someone goes up against CMU, do you want them to be like, CMU is really good about blank, or they are very, a very hard-working team, they're very technically sound? Since you've taken over, what's something you've tried to just instill in the roster?
So I think one thing that, as a team, I think it's important we identify that together. And this year, one of the things that I think that we want to be known for is some grit. And I think that's important for anybody that's a competitor at any sport, but especially in wrestling at points when you go to an environment like we're going to be in tomorrow. Like, you got to have some grit. And in wrestling, everybody is gunning for you. It doesn't matter who you are, or, there's some guys that they're coming after you, and environments change, and sometimes health or sickness or a little bit of an owie here and there, and in the end you need some grit. And so I think that's one thing that we've focused on as a team. It's something that these guys as a team have adopted and kind of came up with, and so I think that's kind of the focus right now is instilling that in every one of our guys.
And then what's maybe something, Coach Pfeiffer was just here for so long, maybe just, I'm sure there's tons, but maybe just one or two things that he's said to you, and this also extends to the players, that's just still just rattling around your head, that you're like, you know what, that's a sage piece of wisdom that he's passed. Or maybe just something, something he told you, like, don't panic or something. It doesn't have to be the most serious thing.
Figure it out. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah, figure it out is definitely a big one. That we, it's important for these. Sometimes these guys got to figure it out. It's not always your coach or somebody that's you got to figure it out. As not that we're not involved as a coach, helping guys through situations and things, but Sometimes they got to figure it out. Sometimes it's more with, something they've got to work through. But that's a good one. You got one from Piper?
Mine was probably just relax, just wrestle, just let it flow. That's probably my biggest thing that he ever told me. So.
And I think no matter what, all the time, I mean, there's so many with Coach Piper. It's unbelievable. One of the guys a few years ago made a shirt that had all these different sayings that Coach Piper had. But, I think, it's a great day to be alive. I mean, he would say that every early morning lift, and, he just adds so much to a room. If you've been around him enough, like he's a big presence when he's around. But yeah, there's a ton of them.
Anything else? All right, question of the week.
All right, you guys. Question of the week. What is the most controversial food that you don't like? Something you don't like that that a lot of other people do.
I can
Anything?
go the opposite real quick, but black jelly beans, love them. They're great, but people don't like them. I don't know why.
It's probably my favorite jelly bean.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't touch anything with blue cheese on it.
Oh, ditto. Blue cheese. Nope.
That's where I disagree. Blue cheese is pretty good. I don't really have a distaste for any food. Sort of learned to love it all.
All right. Thanks, guys.